but that's okay. You know who we are. We're not going to go through that one real fast, but just in case you need anything from us, you reach out to any one of us and we all do talk with one another and we do respond. So here is our agenda for the day. And this is, remember, after the agenda, we talk about different things, but this is what we were hoping to get to today. Our morning session went a little left of center and we did something completely different, which I think the morning session was okay with. But we are hoping to do some little intention setting, because remember, it's so important to set your intentions. We want to talk about the celebrations from this year, because I know many of the individuals that are in this room did apply for recognition. So we want to talk about that. And we also want to talk about maybe the lessons maybe you've learned through that process, but also know that this is not about recognition. For us, it's about doing good things for scholars. We are going to introduce to you the last Dr. Bruce Perry video. There are 5 in the series. You will have all 5 of them after today, and hopefully that's going to take you a little further. We want to reshare, and we're saying reshare because Jessica accidentally stumbled across this, a resource that we used earlier this year that was really a new resource. They revised it again. So we want to make sure that you have the most updated resource so that all the links are live. And we did check the majority of the links. We didn't get all of them. And then lastly, before closure, but lastly, the thing that we want you to work on or think about is the importance of action planning for next year. And the important piece of that 1.15 talks about an annual summary. And that annual summary piece is a way of celebrating the things you did this year. And I'm going to actually ask Angel if she would mind if we shared some of the ones that we did.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that way you can see some ideas and even just copy some of the ideas, because we're all about sharing. So does that agenda make sense to you? Hopefully, I know we only have so much time, but hopefully we're going to get all the way through that piece. We want to give you some time to think and to work too. And that's that 105 to 120 piece. We would keep you all day long if we could, because we think we love our groups where we can talk about behavior. Not that you guys don't like talking attendance. People online, my friends online, is that okay? Is that agenda working for you? And so then our objectives are just a flip of those things. It's what we hope that you are going to be able to do this by the end. Be able to talk about the importance of an action plan for next year. Be able to talk about the importance of that summary. Be able to figure out how are you going to embed Dr. Bruce Perry's work into your work. And then you're going to re-engage with that supporting document. So quick connect. I did lie. We do have a question for you. Oh, we forgot. And it's food related, of course. So instead of doing a check-in, we decided to do something a little different. And this is a quick connect. Again, remembering these come from First Fives. They are done sending them out for this school year. But if you sign up again, you're going to receive them every single day. So if you got to build your own burger, your own green burger, and I know you're eating a fabulous salad, maybe we should have said salad. What would you have on your burger? And I so apologize, because that is really, the image is horrible. You get to choose your base, you get to choose your bun, and you get to choose your topping. So think about that. Anybody want to share their dream burger? Thank you, Angel. That's okay, so do I. Angel, you're supposed to be monitoring.
I'm supposed to, I'm sorry, Marla. I would like the traditional meat. Obviously a bun with no seeds because I am very simple like that. And this, I can't choose three toppings because I only want ketchup. Sorry. But, okay, ketchup only, yes. My daughter, I never grew up, see, it's just that.
Thanks, Angel. And you had like this perfect announcer voice. All of a sudden went into this voice. Okay, two more. I always like those odd numbers. Thank you. I knew you were going to do that, Jen.
Sure. I would take the traditional meat, although I do like a good veggie burger. I'm not knowing. It's on my medal. I'd like a bun without seeds as well. And I would go for my toppings, I would say lettuce, tomato, and mustard. Yeah.
Cool. Nice. One more. I've heard from both sides of the room. Thank you so much. All the way back here, my friend.
All right, I would take the regular burger, the regular bun, ketchup, lettuce, and pickles. And can I have double pickles?
Oh, and have double pickles. Okay, even though that sounds like a silly activity, what's the benefit of doing that with your scholars? What does that do for you? Yes. Hmm. What else? They're engaged, Gary? Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Do you get to learn anything about them? Uh-huh. I mean, it may seem odd that then you get to see similarities. Jessica, it looked like you were going to say something.
I just want to know why bacon isn't a choice.
Because we didn't create the slide. But wouldn't that be a cool thing to say? You can add, you can choose add one thing. Make it your way. All right. So even though it seems silly and it seems non-academic, it really isn't, because it's developing verbal skills. It's developing vocabulary skills. It's developing speaking skills. It's decision-making skills, because sometimes I can't even decide what I want to eat if somebody told me to build my own burger. It's so full of ideas for your classroom and ways of getting your scholars to engage with you. And the other thing is, it's non-threatening, especially if you've set your classroom up to accept differences, to have that conversation. And those are those things that we start from day one, minute one. It's learning about each other and knowing that we all have differences. So thank you for humoring us on our burgers. Again, we have to have our matrix. Oh, our online friends.
6 things wants of beef, burger, bun with seeds, lettuce, tomato, pickles, cheese, mustard, ketchup. She also wants to add bacon.
All right. She's an all girl.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. No, thank you. Again, our most favorite column is being that problem solver. And do you remember why we like being problem solver, even more importantly in connection with PBIS? Because what is PBIS? It is. And we use data, to do what? Make decisions to solve. Yes. PBIS is a problem-solving framework. It's not about knowing the right answer right away. It's not about knowing everything right away, but it's knowing we need these certain things to make good decisions, to solve problems. So here's your time to take that 1 minute to think about what we have said we were going to hopefully get to. What is your intention for today? At the end of this session, I want to know or learn. And to achieve this, I intend to do this, because an intention setting is about what you can do. 1 minute. Okay, go back in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. I knew that. I couldn't hold my water, turn off my watch and do that at the same time, and hold my hand up and count. That was too many things. Uh, You don't have to share your intention with us, but you have to share your intention with you. Remember, an intention is something to move you forward. What can we do to move forward? Okay, so let's move forward on our slides. We love to have a quote. Read this quote and see why this would be important for us to think about this. Why is this quote pertinent for our work?
I think a lot of times students that struggle, we tend to not provide support initially. So we often go to that discipline rule instead of the support rule. And so when it says for all, it's even for those struggling.
Okay, thank you, Angel. Why is this quote pertinent to our work? Yes, Karen.
Because it's too easy just to go right to how we're going to handle the behaviors instead of working towards why. Here's what we're going to do instead.
Thank you. Both. Hitting the mark? I'm coming to you. You made eye contact with me. And it's fine. You did it. You made eye contact.
Quite loud. It's the difference of being proactive versus reactive.
And I want you to think about this not only from the student perspective, but also the scholar perspective, the adult perspective. Think about your adults. Do our online friends have any ideas?
They haven't shared.
Okay. What we're saying is it really is good stuff for all of us. But our kids that struggle the most need it the most. Structure is important for all of us, but that kiddo that doesn't have executive functioning skills need it the most. And you won't know that unless you start exploring that. So yeah, thank you for, again, engaging with that. So here is our friend, Dr. Bruce Perry. This is the 5th time you've seen him. You know what his philosophy is. The one that we are going to focus on today is specifically for educators in the classroom. Sometimes it's really hard to say certain things, especially to adults, especially if we're not ready to hear those things. But I want you to take a moment and listen to what he has to say. And again, I guess I have to stop apologizing for that screen, but that screen is just horrible. No, I got it. You can make it bigger. Yeah, I just need to ask a question. Can you share the owl from the speaker point of view? They probably can't hear anything now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Remember to listen to the key points that Dr. Perry is talking. And think about the points that you bring back to your team.
the main strategies that educators and other mental health folks have used to kind of manage sort of challenging behaviors is to use what we call contingency programs, rewards, consequences, levels, and all that kind of stuff. And, if you're a well-regulated kid and you've already got a skill, you know how to make your bed, and your parents want you to make your bed more frequently, using a points and levels system or giving a reward and a consequence will work. But if you're a dysregulated child and you don't have the skill, you can't use rewards and consequences to build skills. And so part of what, most of the schools that we work ultimately conclude, and we think rightly so, is that traditional behavioral modification models do not work with these dysregulated kids. In fact, they make things worse. So if you put in place regulating relational strategies and restorative justice models, basically, to deal with some of the most challenging behaviors, the outcomes are much superior. I think probably the best model that I'm aware of is collaborative problem solving. It's learning a set of strategies about listening to the student, hearing what their challenges are, what their work concerns are, and then you talk about why you as a teacher might have some concerns, and you negotiate, and you have a collaborative solution to what the problem is. And you can learn how to use this approach if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a therapist, and the children learn this approach. And so it's one of those relationally based. They're beginning to conceptualize it and appreciate how rhythmic it is, but it's a rhythmic relational approach that actually can really diminish challenging behaviors. There's a couple things that I do if I had an option in education, particularly if I had a significant portion of kids that were coming from challenging backgrounds. One is that I would actually have a lot more heterogeneous clustering. So I would have more like sort of a one-room classroom, sort of the old style, one-room classroom with some older kids and middle-aged kids and little ones all together in the same space. I think the best way to master any cognitive concept is to teach it. And so I would incorporate teaching into education. The kids have to teach, but they have to teach people who are not as advanced as they are. But if you reorganize the way you cluster kids for teaching, you can have a group of kids that might be different ages, but they'd be at the same developmental level when they're learning a certain, activity, or the social expectations would be appropriate for their social capabilities. And so you'd be much more likely to be on target when you're creating expectations and curricular elements for a group of kids, if you know where they are emotionally, socially, cognitively, and so forth. The second thing that I would do is I would actually have more continuity in teachers. So I wouldn't have teachers turn over every year. That's very disruptive, I think, for a lot of kids. And so I would have maybe, at least 2 years that a teacher would teach a group of kids. And the other thing I would do is I would have a lot more movement. I would have people moving more, I'd have people outside more, and I would have less traditional testing. If you really let the teachers use their creativity and their energy in getting these kids to the testing point, as opposed to make them do this rigid curricular step-by-step thing, and give them the opportunity to kind of meander and make learning a much more pleasant journey, and let their creativity sort of free, I think you'd be much more successful in achieving academic goals in education. One of the things that we always try to emphasize for educators is how important they are and how powerful they are in influencing literally for a lifetime individuals. And now the hard part is that they almost never realize this, because as I said before, it's the tiniest little moments when somebody feels truly respected, truly heard, that last a lifetime. And so a lot of teachers just feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're not making a big difference, but I can guarantee you that they are. And they'll make even more difference the more they take care of themselves. So if they come to school rested, if they take their sick days when they're sick, if they really take their vacations, if they learn how to, don't overwork yourself, and do your very best to stay regulated when you interact with kids, and you can be present, you're going to make a huge difference in their lives. Even though they may not do well in your class, even though they may not get the grades you want them to get, you will be surprised at how many of them will keep you in mind as somebody who thought they could do it. And they'll use that again and again and again, and that may get them through all kinds of hard times that you have no idea. And I think any of the older educators know exactly what I'm talking about, because they've had students come back and say, you made all the difference in my life. And, the teacher goes, oh, great. And they can barely remember anything. What did I do special? I just treated you like I treat everybody else. But that's the key. You just never know. But you are making a difference.
What jumped out at you? Oh. What jumped out at you? What resonates with you? What love?
Kids were-
Okay.
That in there, I had a kid that also told me that started in life too. So how we remember, he actually did. He said, it started in life.
Your own kids might say that too.
Yeah. The way that they do.
Mm. Yes. Tell me more about that one. What do you mean?
The students know how to make their beds, so a reward or a consequence would be effective for that if they don't do it. But when they don't know how to do the task, it's not going to work.
What do you think?
So what stuck with me is I said that to our teachers a lot this year that, we had a lot of hard students and it was a difficult year. And so I said, know that you are making a difference. Even when it doesn't feel like you're making a difference, you are that person for someone.
Any other thoughts? Any words jump out at you to make you sure that you remember certain things? One of my favorite quotes is by, sure, Sister Teresa, Mother Teresa. She might have been a sister too at one point in time, but Mother Teresa talks about the fact that, remember, to the world you may be that one person, but to one person you might be the world. So you really do not know the impact that you can make. But I hope you also were reminded when he said, a dysregulated adult can't regulate a dysregulated child. That's one so important thing. When you see that happening, you really do have to intervene, because that just escalates the situation. Hope you heard those 3 magic R words. Remember, before you can ever reason, what do you need to do? We need to get our scholars to regulate. Then we have to do what? Relate, and then we have to reason. That's our adults too. I joke all the time saying adults are just bigger kids, but it's not the fact that we're just bigger kids. It's the fact that we still have the same brain. We may have a fully developed prefrontal cortex on most days, but when we are in a crisis, if we do not regulate ourselves first, and I can tell you, I was dysregulated this week for a stupid reason, and I was very disappointed in the way I responded. But, and I'm sort of silly to say this, but I have a cat, Jessica knows, Hendrik knows, but I have a cat who is affectionately called TC, which stands for that cat. And I know this sounds stupid, but he has this thing that if I don't pay attention to him, he starts knocking things off. or knocking the pictures on the wall. He does this, and he does it so methodical that it's so beautiful. Is that you too? Well, I finally sat down after doing all the things you do after work, and I apparently have not given him enough attention, because remember, and I just sat down with a full cup of tea. He knocked my whole teacup off the end table. My fault. It's an adult problem. I know better. I know what he does. I just wasn't fast enough this time. And so I was completely dysregulated at that moment, because it wasn't just a normal like petite teacup. No, it was a full, huge mug of tea that went everywhere. So the reason why I say that is unfortunately, even though it's a cat, it's still, the way I responded was not appropriate, with a very loud voice, no foul language. I usually don't use foul language, but very loud. No, I'm not going to. But the look alone could have probably fired things, but then I had to stop. I stopped myself. I said, you know better. You know to watch for those signs. So I say that in joke, but it's true about our scholars. If we start being that kid watcher, we can start seeing those different things that will alert us that our scholars need assistance. But even backing it up more, if we can train ourselves to acknowledge when they're doing the right thing, you're going to eliminate some of the inappropriate things or interfering behaviors. Do our friends online have anything?
Yes, Miss Dixon shared, I love how he expressed the unknown impact we have on children simply by being intentional and genuine. Excellent.
Nicely said, Miss Dixon. Yeah. And again, you've had all 5 of these. Some of them might be appropriate to share. Some of them might be. I mean, I like the one part where he said about state testing. You didn't hear that from me. I didn't say that. It wasn't me. But yeah. Yes. I will not be here next year. But it's so true. How do we make that learning piece so that they find joy in it? All right. Thank you for engaging in that piece and humoring us. You have all of these to utilize. You can use them at your will. But again, our goal is to build your capacity. All right.
And on that note, so we just talked about, we just finished that up with the dysregulated students and dysregulated adults. I know that's been a recurring theme for all of our meetings this year, is really talking through how do we regulate our adults, because we know that that's critical before we can regulate our students anyway. This is a research brief that we have shared several times now. I believe the original publication was back in 2016 or 18, I forget. Then they redid it in 2022, so post-pandemic, and then they have since now updated it again. It was just released, I believe, May 28th. And for the most part, the document is the same. As Marla mentioned, a lot of the links built into this. So if I apologize, I didn't screenshot any of this, but this works you through those different evidence-based classroom practices to support our students, specifically their social and emotional behavioral needs. So we have our PBIS frameworks already established, right? School-wide settings, all of the locations, all of that, but this is really then how do you bring it into the classroom to truly support our students and our staff. So each page has a full diagram of what would this look like, what would this not look like. It's got the elementary examples, it's got high school examples, and then video clips. And a lot of the video clips in the old document no longer worked. So they have since updated those. They found some new resources, some new video examples, whatever, templates, all kinds of stuff. So we have spent whole days looking at this resource. And even as we're going into action planning, as you are looking for resources to support your action steps, this is a fantastic resource. And again, truly, how do you integrate that school-wide framework that you already have established? How do you really ensure that it's being integrated into your classroom practices. And then at the very end of this is also a self-assessment checklist. It's not the self-assessment survey, but this is really looking at self-assessing your classroom practices and really looking again at what are those areas, what are those growth opportunities that maybe I have in my own classroom. And again, just then it gives you a great way to then how do you pull it back and find what resources could support enhancing or strengthening that area. Thanks, Marla. I didn't think about just clicking on it. I knew it was linked and I forgot it was linked. And I see some of our friends are already clicking away. And so we didn't print it for you because it is a lengthy document and we didn't, know if you wanted another copy of it, but you can't click on links whenever it's in your hands. But you can see here Marla's getting us to what I was talking about. So we have all of these different tables where it breaks you down into, so first step, we know we have to create that positive teaching and learning environment. And how do we do that? And what are the different areas of that? So we know we have to design that safety is primary, right? Then we have to have those positive connections. Then we have to develop those predictable routines. So again, it's just how do you thread all of that school-wide framework directly into what you're already doing? This isn't more, this is just making sure that we're being intentional when we do embed that into classroom practices. And then I do like that, then it does get to how do we respond to those interfering behaviors. And then on the right-hand side, you can see these resources. Those are all those updated links. I noticed in some of the changes, they added some more inclusive language. So some of their statements have been modified just a little bit to just make sure that we are considering our subgroups, that we're not excluding our students with disabilities. So it did change a little bit of that focus, but it's a fantastic resource for your team to consider. And, for any staff member that's just looking to really strengthen their classroom practices. Can you show us the self-assessment survey? I don't know what it's actually called. It is called a self-assessment. And then again, there's that action planning. So this can be done individually, or you could, of course, look at it like as a team, as a grade level, a TBT, whatever, and really just looking at those classroom practices and how are we supporting the implementation of our PBIS framework. This is not the TFI, but it all fits together. So this wouldn't replace the TFI all by itself, but it's really getting into those unique practices. So this is when you're really ready to strengthen. So maybe you score yourselves on the TFI and you're like, we're 100%, woo, we have nothing else to do. And, the recognition requirements, which I hate saying that because that's not what this is about, but it says that you still need 3 action steps. And you're like, but we're doing everything fantastic. We're perfect. We're great. Here's where we can really look on where can we strengthen our system? What are supports that we need? What are some tier 2 and tier 3 supports we need for our staff to be more successful? Any thoughts, or has anybody used this? Has anybody clicked around before on this resource? It's one of my favorites.
I think the other beauty of this is, for example, you may be doing your walk arounds and you may walk around and you might notice some things that might need to be tweaked a bit. Maybe their room arrangements off. Maybe they don't have routines in place. Maybe they need different resources on how to encourage appropriate behavior. That's the other fun part about this document. It actually gives you that resource to utilize. So if you go back up to this little menu and say it's like their environment is not safe, let's click on that. It takes you right to that resource. But also I did use this, and I shared this before, that I did use this with a teacher. We did self-assess. She decided some action steps that she wanted to put into place. So it really is helpful if you're doing those walkarounds and you're seeing that you're noticing that there are some areas that could be improved. Again, just trying to build your capacity. And you might even have a teacher that comes up to you that says, I'm having difficulty in this. Maybe you're doing the OTES evaluation and you notice they need some help in this area. it's hard to find all of the different resources. This sort of gives you a nice launch pad to do that. You don't have to go and find everything. Right? Thoughts, poems, interpretive dance, ideas?
I love a good haiku.
And even past all of those, they legitimately probably have 100 different things. Like this one's on positive greetings by the door. This one happens to be about how to use flexible grouping. So how to use circle practice in your classroom. So it really is a one-stop shop. And if there's one thing that you can utilize, it might be something you might want to think about. And we're going to give you time to explore that too. They're quiet today. You know why? Because we fed them. We fed them.
also June 13th.
It's June 13th.
So happy you're here.
We are thrilled. And one of the things we pulled out from this morning, because we really thought it so resonated with us, because we sometimes don't think this. When we provide extra support, and they call it intensive, that's where our parent communication needs to also increase. And when we saw it, maybe I should just talk about myself, when I saw this, it finally made better sense for me. It's not saying that we don't ever talk to our families about the universal, because that's what that whole piece about is, getting them involved, bringing them with us and doing it with us together. But when we have to provide tier 2 supports, we have to make sure they're on board. And not only on board, but also understand what it is that they can do to support. And then finally, when they're in tier 3, that's where we have to have more frequent conversations with our families. And we are also realists. We know that we can't get all of our families, but that doesn't mean that we don't do what we need to do to get them there. How's our online friends doing? Anything they need to know, want to talk about?
Not yet.
Anything that they see in this that resonates with them? And I think you learned this morning that our friend Matthew did create this for our team. And so kudos to Matthew next time you see him. And then probably one of our most favorite pieces to talk about is our action planning and our one-page summary. Again, how many of you did the TFI this year for tier 1? So as you did the tier fidelity inventory for tier 1, you went through each one of those features and you rated yourself. When you rate yourself, then you automatically start thinking, what could I do to get this better? What do I need to do better? That's your action step. But one of the ones that we talk about happens to be that 1.15.
Of course.
And I think they're coming up, and I want to show you, if you're having to have that visual, to see that you already have this in one time. Who doesn't want another team? Who really doesn't want it? Yes, you want another one. What are the 4 words? Oh, come on. I'm not making him feel very safe. Come on, phone it around.
So online friends, Miss Marla is passing out a copy of the tiered fidelity inventory to our participants, and it's also in the chat for you as well for that digital version, because we're referring to item 1.15 on the TFI. I have no idea what page that's on because I didn't memorize that, but that's what's the chaos happening in our room right now.
I was picking on him because we talked about those 4 magic words. Say positive.
And Marla's going to keep talking without the microphone, so I'm so sorry that you can't hear her.
Can't be Italian with a microphone in my hand. Those, do you have them written down? Safe, positive, predictable, consistent with relationships. You got it. So anyways, you got it. Oh, where's my tickets? I have find my ticket. I walked away. It's June 13th. I'll find them. Anyways, the point of this is, if you flip to the beginning of the tier 1 part, of the TFI, if you still have your TFI. Mm-hmm. Remember, tier one has 15 features. And the feature that we want to, what's your name on the back of that? Is yours? The feature that we want to talk about is actually 1.15. Page is 1.15 on. It is on page 11, Angel. Thank you. I noticed that you are. What page? No, no, because I noticed you were on task and you were working to help. You know, well, you. I was already there. You were. I'm getting to you, Heather. Yeah, this shifting room so quickly, we have our whole basket of candy up there that hasn't made it to the tables. We have all that stuff over there. This has been a challenge somewhat, but fun. Fun challenge. But anyways, 1.15 talks about an annual summary, annual evaluation. What that's talking about is how do you share out with your stakeholders, your community, your family, your staff even, the great things that happen in tier one. And I'm talking tier one right now. Because you can also, if you're implementing tier two, you also throw in the tier two. So when you think about those things that happened well this year, this is where I need audience participation. Online too. What are some things that you would celebrate based on your implementation of PBIS this year? Shout it out. Even while you're chewing, I don't care. I was a former waitress, so I always knew when to ask questions. Hey, how's dinner? Oh, you're eating? Okay, I'll come back later. Wendy.
Tickets where every teacher got a ticket for every day.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the day, we would call through to the office and we're going to the next moving forward again. And then we have the word.
So pink tickets.
Yeah.
How would you summarize that? Short and sweet so families do that know.
Most families know because we would take kids to Pizza Hut. We'd pull like from the board. So they know every month we would post on our Facebook about these are our PBIS winners. And we would always put like, they're always ready. You know, we would always put those out there also.
So now I'm going to start you a little bit, Wendy, because if you're going to think about, because you're going to think about, when that one page summary, and that's all about acknowledging the behaviors that you want to see. What would be the percentage of scholars that maybe receive this knowledge? Wouldn't that be an awesome thing to share? Mm-hmm. What else would you celebrate from this year that you did in implementing PBIS? There's celebrations all around this room. Every one of you has a celebration. Okay, going all the way back to the back of the room.
So this is my first year at the junior high, and one of the things I was told was just worry about tier one, don't worry about tier two. It's too much work, don't even do it. And we did apply for tier two, and I think we made a really good start. So if we didn't get it this year, we will definitely get it next year, because I think we did a really nice job in implementing at least 4 different activities to help those ones who needed a little extra support.
That is something to celebrate. So on your one-page summary, you would probably share your outcome of your TFI for the tier two, or even possibly, just possibly maybe, the interventions that you implemented. I don't know, that might be an idea. What would you celebrate? Because we're going to show you some samples. What would you celebrate? I'm coming to you. You're not going to get out of it. Everybody might as well be prepared. I'm coming to you.
So this year we really concentrated on our acknowledgements. We did Raider focused students, which were 2 from each grade, twice a year. So we picked 2 kids. And we wrote basically a summary on them. We attended a board meeting and invited their parents. And the community was able to hear. We read the letter out loud. We have ships for PBIS, so that they represent, so scholarship, stewardship, friendship, mentorship. We have those ships, and so, yes, so. Yes, ship. So, and those are all things of what a Raider is to have. Yes, they get little shirts of what ship they represent. So whether it was friendship, mentorship, they were different colors. So our Raider focus was based on that, but our focus student was someone who kind of demonstrated all of the ships throughout the year. And then we had Raider spotlight students, which were every month. We would pick someone based on a ship, and we wrote just like a few sentences on what ship they represented and what they did to earn that. And they got t-shirts for that or certificate for that. I think an ice cream treat at some point. And then we worked our way up. So those were about 36 kids. And then we worked our way up to attendance heroes. They were here every day, ready, on time. So we would run that for a couple weeks. And if they had perfect attendance, they would get an ice cream treat. So we ran that a couple times throughout the year, and that went to a lot more kids. And then we had already had in effect our pride tickets, our Raider pride tickets, which are given to the students more frequently than anything else. So almost everyone, I think everyone got a pride ticket at some point or more. And then they were used in different ways based on what the teachers do in each grade. But we really tried to focus on that, and it turned out really good. You know, going to the board meeting and the teacher showed up and read the letter. And I mean, it was nice to get the community involved that way. So we focused on that, which I think worked really well.
Thank you. And what was the E again? Engage?
Here, every day, ready, on time.
Got
Yes.
it. Thank you. What's your name on that? Hey, Garrett?
Mine's is different, but I wanted to say our celebration this year would be that we went through the process, and we've been doing PBIS in Connie at middle school and elementary buildings for a number of years. We've been around Marla for a whole lot of years, but yeah, we had a stretch where we didn't. I feel that you guys should be celebrated because we've had more support this year than we've had in quite a while. And Hedrick, who came up to our school all the time, was totally different than we just feel like we've had. There's been a focus from the top down, and the top being you guys at this level, making sure supporting us at the individual buildings and keeping us on track. And so when it came to us getting our binder together this year, I felt a lot better about it, the whole process, than in some of the prior years. So thank you.
Hendrick, thanks.
We could go get Michelle and have her come back and then.
It's recorded.
It's recorded. It's recorded. Okay, Angel, you know I'm coming your way.
Wait, hold on, Marla.
Oh, what?
I'm out.
Oh,
We
turn on
have
my mic.
Sarah from Struthers. Look, I'm talking in a microphone. Sorry, Sarah from Struthers, thank you for sharing. She had some gains in tier 2 data collection. So similar to what Alyssa was sharing over there. They're just more intentional with their strategies. And then they've already set some goals for 24-25 to improve for next year. So thank you, Sarah, for being here and being engaged, and also for sharing out, because we love hearing what Struthers is doing and just how you're continuing to build your implementation. I'm staring at you on my screen, but apparently the owl's over here. So I'm sorry. It's weird. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sarah. Angel, what are you celebrating?
Oh, gosh. I think we're a little different at Youngstown City because we were actually celebrating a decrease in discipline referrals and a decrease in out-of-school suspensions, and looking at our data for students with disabilities, disaggregating that data because we're part of the 11 district plan. So our buildings really celebrated those things specifically just because our DRFs tend to be a little bit higher than maybe some of our neighboring schools.
I celebrate Angel all the time because she has been instrumental. Okay, Heather, haven't heard from you.
You I am going to piggyback off Angel, and I am going to say that we celebrated an increase in referrals, but let me talk about that a little bit. There's a reason. We have in the past been so focused on such huge behaviors that it was like, oh, you got in another fight, here's a referral. Oh, you got in, you were using awful language loudly in the hallways with kindergartners out, like just so big, so massive that we were not able to really focus on the behaviors that were actually hindering the learning. So we were just focusing on the behaviors that were hindering just students feeling safe, like just the basics. So now that, not so much this year, but the year prior, we were able to really make that shift with focusing on, hey, we don't have to focus so much on the fighting or the screaming cuss words in the hallways around the kindergartners and cussing out your teacher and throwing furniture, that we were able to make the shift 2 years ago to we can actually focus on the behaviors that are hindering the academic portion of it. And this year, our referrals seem to go up a little bit, but digging into those referrals, we were able to say the tiers of referrals have just majorly decreased, where it's looking like our referrals increase, but our teachers now are able to really focus and write things up that's like, hey, this was hindering the academics in the classroom, not just our student safety. So we felt like that was a win.
That is a win. And remember, when you start focusing on acknowledging behaviors, the right behaviors that you want to see, and when you're starting this and you're launching this, it is not unusual for referrals to go up because you are now focusing. What are we doing down there? Dancing?
Sorry, you said it's not unusual.
Oh, it's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Okay, there you go, Nancy. Thank you. So I love that. So our goal with doing this is because we want to help you achieve a higher score with that 1.15. Because the 1.15 talks about sharing out with your stakeholders and creating this one-page summary. And I know some of you may have been dabbling in it. Some of you may not have even started to do this. So we wanted to give you this few minutes to start looking or thinking through some of those ideas. So I know I am not currently logged in there. Am I not? You're logged in? It's me, yeah. It's you?
Whenever we're doing, I can share what's happening at
Okay.
Southside Academy
All right.
because they have some celebrations too.
Okay, but
I
I
don't
don't-
need to,
I need
I
two
don't need two
minutes.
microphones. I'm loud enough.
Okay.
So while I know what you're going to do. Yeah, while you do that, at Southside Academy, their data was beneficial to identify adult and teacher weaknesses, so adult/teacher weaknesses, referring to classroom management from the referrals. With this information, they were able to focus on professional development and build skills for those staff, which decreased their office referrals. So they took a deeper dive into their adult data. So starting to look, now that we have more of this information, we have more referrals, looking at who are the adults that are maybe entering those referrals and just finding what additional supports do they need? Because we know every year those students are a different group of kids. The dynamic's going to change every year. So maybe what worked last year, you're a fantastic teacher, you're a professional, you have skills, but when the students change, sometimes we have to develop new skills. We have to modify our systems. So what worked with last year's class was fantastic. You're great. You're amazing. But now we have to try some new things and learn some new strategies and put those supports into place. So not looking at it so much from that punitive mindset, which I know not every building is there yet. I know that there's still that initial glance of, oh, you have the most referrals, you must have no classroom management, you're on an improvement plan. But changing that focus to, you know what, we need to support you with new strategies to implement in your classroom, which you can find so many in that other resource we talked about earlier. Did I fill enough time yet, Marla? Great, here we go.
One of the parts that they these people what the part do is set an action plan as well as a one-page summary. So that way, Angel, who oversees it in Youngstown, is able to keep track of these things. So just to share what some of them could look like, because this is going to be a challenge that we want to set forth for you, because this is something that you can, Angel shared with me that some schools send it home in their report cards. Some schools just put it on their website. Some schools put it out at parent night. So there's different ways that you can do it. So for example, if I look at this one, they did it in a form of a brochure. And simple things of what they did, who to contact, but here's their data. They talk about who's on their team, what is PBIS. Their celebrations were lengthy, so they have a lot of celebrations. They put their next steps on there. They put just a quick graphic of their scores, because when you think about what you want it to be, you want it to be quick and easy for anybody to pick up, and it sort of tells a little mini story. It celebrates and it helps let your stakeholders know you're going to move forward. If I look at this particular one, they did just a one-page summary, which wound up being a little more like 2 pages. But again, their logo, they talked about their overview, their discipline, their attendance. They put a graphic in their attendance. They talked about how they improved their chronic absentee, their bear celebration. So again, it's whatever you want it to be. So I showed you 2 high schools. How about an elementary school? Anybody interested in elementary? Okay, so let's see. How's our online friends doing?
Good.
And I could pick any one of them. They all have their own spin to it. They were not given any strict requirements of what it needed to look like, but they were given the ideas of what to put on there. So once again, they chose to do how they're implementing, talked about their office referral rate. They talked about the universal expectation. They talked about their attendance. They talked about their action plan for next year. Short and sweet and simple. So what we'd like for you to do or to consider is to do this for yourself, because it's a twofer. It's a buy one, get one free. It's something that you share out because you want your community to know about it, but it also gives you a moment to pause and say, if I had to tell somebody 4 things or 5 things, what would it be and how would I do it? We read something called writing for busy readers. Think about that means, what are you going to bold? What visual are you going to put in place? What are you going to have pop off the page? Because you want them walking away more informed in a positive way. Make sense? Who's going to take that challenge? Oh, wow. Marla can share a template with you. And so I can do that. I can send that. You know how we do our follow-up email? I can send that out to you. And
I'm sorry. I just realized I did that. And Marla will do it for you.
no, I'm happy to do it. But I also know within this room is creativity that I don't have. One of the schools which I didn't pop into loves Canva. So they were playing in Canva. Mhm. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you.
But with this challenges, we would hope that you would then turn and share it back with us. Because again, we're one of your stakeholders and we want to sing your praises as well. So this is not about recognition. For me, when I talk about it, it's not about recognition. It's about doing the right thing for scholars, but also then allowing you to share this out. Because So often we hear the things that aren't going right. This is your chance to really show what's going right. Make sense? Okay, so we'll send that out, not Marla, all of us will send that out in that email. We'll give you 2 different templates and you can choose whichever one you want to use. All right? And if you haven't started implementing and maybe you're just on that journey, maybe this could be sort of like a report out of the work that you've been doing. All right. Will it let you go back to that presentation? No, even though I'm part of the people, aren't I? Are you in mine? It should be right at the top. Okay. So we are about at that witching hour. 1:23. I don't know where the time went. And Hendrik, even though you got this glowing report from Gary, so, and it's recorded. If you could just take a moment and give us some feedback on not only today, but if there's anything that we can do to get better. We're always open to it. We are in the process of planning for next year. Would love ideas. Did it work?
Maybe that's the thing.
See, we need tier 2 supports. But I don't want to be the person that says on behalf of all of us, but on behalf of all of us, and I'm going to let them speak for themselves. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for doing this work. It's not easy. It takes time, but we're so thrilled to have you as part of our team. Jessica, any final words from our people online or for you?
No, we appreciate your participation, your engagement in our network throughout the year. For those of you, I know it's on another slide, but I don't want to take away the links right now. For those of you that are continuing to participate in empowering teams for year 2, the PBIS network will continue as a part of the end of that day. For those of you that are not participating in our full day MTSS training, we will continue to have the hybrid option. So if you're not able to come for the whole day, we will continue to have this hybrid option. And in a minute, I'm going to link the registration form for our network only. And again, next year, it will take place the same time as our literacy network, as the, I almost said literacy again, special education, which is now called Outcomes for Diverse Learners. And then we will also be adding a math network next year. So those 4 networks will all take place at the same time, and it will be in the afternoon. And we will pass out those dates to you. It's also on the registration form that, like I said, I'll link in a minute here. But we hope to see you again next year. But if you're not continuing with empowering teams, we will continue the network next year. And like Marla said, we will look at your feedback. We do regularly review that feedback and then kind of adjust our ships to make sure that we're sailing in the direction that fits your needs the most. And I see a hustle and a bustle of things. So I'm going to try to put the registration.
I know. I'm using both hands. So we do have your names in our drawing. And we have, let's see. Angel, will you pick the first name?
Of course. I will try, Heather.
Okay. It is Trista. Okay, you get to pick the next one.
Okay.
That's rigged. Alrighty. Brenda? I think that was Sarah? Sarah from online. Sarah, you get to choose from the UDL book from Katie Novak or Patty Relevant or some other treat. And let's see. Would you pick one? And Craig. Okay, we have a dish. Are you taking the M&Ms this time?
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, hold that up high. Oh, Miss
Miss
Dixon from online. That one came up. Shelley? Okay. And you were released for the summer.
She has to use the
Okay, did she have both of the UDL books?
I think I do. Sorry. I think I have both of her UDL books.
Okay.
But thank you though. We've used them in a few professional developments here. So, or you could regift it to somebody else, or you can give me a piece of candy next fall.
Okay, we got you covered, Sarah.
It was good to see you guys. Take care.
Be well.
What time was you on it? Miss Dixon won.
What did Miss
She
Dixon?
didn't say anything. She hooked up.
And Miss Dixon's from Southside Academy.